for inviting me to come to this beautiful city of Bornholm. It's a pleasure for me and an honor for me to be here, and I'm very proud to be here. And I even would like to say, I don't know if I say it well, but I know not everybody from Denmark loves me, but the other way around is okay. I don't only love Denmark, I also love the city. I know there were many people, I followed the press from abroad, from Holland, the last few weeks and months, and I know that there was an enormous request to disinvite me. But the Free Press Society did not disinvite me. The people who did not want me to come, and they also did not stop the gathering, even though there were extremists that might have been willing and prepared to use even violence meeting to be realized. Again, the Free Press Society did not bow to intimidation. And I think, on behalf of everybody here, I hope you don't disagree on that issue, I have to give them an applause just for that. People, I've been told, the realization that if we do give into intimidation and threats, we are bound to lose our freedom. And we will never let that happen, because I was in Garland, Texas, at a contest of an exhibition of eventually the location after the Charlie Hebdo assassinations to the. So it's important for you to know that the Garland event was not organized to provoke. It was not a provocation. It was to make a stand. To make a stand that the Islamic demand that we center ourselves, that in fact is the real provocation. And every demand that we give up our freedom of speech, I believe, is intolerable. It's an intolerable provocation which we should never leave unanswered. We have been born, almost all of us here, in free Western nations. As a matter of fact, if our birthright, who want to deny it to us, do not belong in our societies. It's, as you probably have heard, the Garland event was attacked by jihadis that had connections, as it seems, with the Islamic State. They shot a policeman in the leg, but fortunately the American police shot them before they could do more harm and shed more innocent blood in America. And after the Garland attack, I proposed on American television exhibit the Garland cartoons everywhere in the free world. That can the only reaction that we have is to show them everywhere in the world, because I believe that we are not going to win is to do exactly what they do. The Garland cartoon Dutch state television next Saturday in the broadcasting time allotted to my party. Show them that we will not be intimidated by violence. Show them that we will never submit. It's the only way to make clear that we will never surrender and that we will remain of the world. And I know very well. Those who I respect a lot, that I respect a lot, already said, and there are probably more people in the room that agree with Mr. Rose, and there's nothing wrong with that, that tell me that, Mr. Wilders, you are an advocate of free speech, but you want to ban the Quran. You want to close down mosques and Islamic school, and indeed, is that not a contradiction? And that is a fair question. So I will try to answer that question. My answer to you is, it is not. It is not a contradiction. Three good reasons why. First, because freedom is living in the truth. Second, because freedom means that we say no to slavery. And third, because freedom is also that we learn from mistakes that we made in the past. The first point I want to make is acting in recognition of reality. And what is the reality today? The reality is that Islam is not only a totalitarian ideology, but it also wants to establish tyrannical power over non-Muslims. The reality is as well, whether we like it or not, that Islam commands its followers to make all nations submit to Islamic Sharia law, wherever and whenever they have the power and the opportunity to do so, and if necessary, of violence and terror. The reality, ladies and gentlemen, is as well that Sharia law that comes together with Islam is a mortal danger, nothing less than a mortal danger to our way of life, our constitution, our laws, and our liberties. It is a matter of our existence. It is a matter of the survival of our societies. And the freedom to propagate a political system that says we'll slit your throat if you draw a cartoon, well, I certainly will not allow it. If you want that kind of freedom, please move to either Saudi Arabia, Iran, or Pakistan, or any other country in the world. I believe that Islam indoctrinates people with hatred against our societies, and unfortunately, very successfully. Islamic terrorists are a minority. We all know that. But polls suggest of a majority. And let me tell you one survey that an independent bureau called Multifaction did in the Netherlands, not so long ago. That survey revealed that 73%, almost 3/4 of the Islamic population in the Kingdom of the Netherlands consider Muslims to fight jihad as heroes. You heard it right. 3/4 of the Muslims in Holland believe that jihad is going to wage jihad in Syria are heroes. And 80% of the Turkish youth in the Netherlands even believe that the use of violence by groups like the Islamic State against non-believers is not a wrong thing. 80%. 4 out of 5 of the Turkish youth in Holland, and we have a lot, believe that violence against non-believers is not a bad thing. And may I ask you, where are the mass demonstrations? In Copenhagen, in Amsterdam, in New York, in London, in Nairobi, wherever, anywhere else in the world, that to tell the people that they do not agree with the violence, or that this is not their Islam, that they don't believe that is the real interpretation of their Islam. Where are those demonstrations? Where are they, those big minorities that don't adhere to that everybody is talking about, if you believe the press? Well, I haven't seen them. You haven't seen them for the simple reason that there have not been any. It's a minority who commits the violence. The majority does not commit violence. But do they oppose it? And do they show that they oppose it? We cannot put our hands in the sand and do as if all these facts do not exist. We have to face the reality. And let's look back. I know it might be uncomfortable, but we have to learn from the Nazi Germany in the last century. Also, at that time, it was only a minority who committed all those terrible crimes and those atrocities. But the majority, well, they were not. But the majority allowed for the most terrible things to happen. And in the Soviet Union too, it was only a minority that committed horrible crimes, but the majority allowed them to happen. And we also have to realize that we are defending not only our liberties, but also our identity. And I believe that our identity of the free Western world is certainly not based on Islamic identity, but on Judaism, on Christianity, on humanism. And that's where our freedom comes from. And by depriving Islam of the means, as I see it, to destroy our identity, we are not violating freedom, we are guaranteeing freedom. And I believe we should do that. It would be contradictory to sing the praise of freedom while at the same time standing idly by when Islam is eating away our freedoms. And I say, stop, should not turn freedom into a snake eating its own tail. Then the second reason. Islam wants to enslave us all. And indeed, I use the words that Abraham Lincoln, the President of the United States, who freed this country from slavery, said, freedom to others deserve it not for themselves. And I agree. It's democracy, freedom, and slavery. And the terrible situation that we are in today is caused by our tolerance of evil. We are too tolerant to the ones that are too tolerant for Islam being an intolerant ideology. I believe, Mr. Rose, that by allowing freedom to the enemies of freedom, we prove the world that we stand for freedom. But in reality, by refusing to draw the boundaries of our tolerance, we are handing away our freedom. I do not want Sharia law in the West. I want the West law. Either we cannot have it both, or politically correct deal with both of them. We should not be so tolerant that we open the door to the horror of intolerance. I believe it's our duty as Western patriots to protect our children from slavery, to adopt a sensible view of freedom, and to secure the existence and the continuation of a free society. And then shortly also the third reason. Let us take a step back. And although we barely escaped catastrophe 70 years ago, again our Western leaders today are making the same mistakes that the European leaders made in the 1930s. They are appeasers and refuse to see any ideology. Look what happened this year. We all saw what happened in Paris, in Copenhagen, and Belgium, all over the world. We saw the most close eyes for this. They have all one thing in common. They have all been committed in the name of, can say, that we have not been warned. So let us stop bowing to Islam. No appeasers anymore. We live in an age of rights, so long as they do not have to pay the price for it. And the political and the media elites are all in favor of speaking the truth. Is nothing more than a cliche. But when duty comes, when honor cannot thwart history and yell stop, they flee away. They lose their patience. They call us bigots or extremists. They drag us to court. They try to silence us. But, my friend, and I don't believe you should be fooled yourselves as well. Learn one thing of Churchill. Churchill warned that when somebody threatens to kill you, you better not take him seriously, and you do everything you can to stop him. And we all know that freedom has a price, and that the truth is not a cliche. And we have to pay the price, even if the price is uncomfortable. We have a choice at the end of the day between either Islam or freedom. That is the choice we have to make. There is no middle way. We can grant all the freedoms to Islam that we want, but we will finish the day by losing. I believe we should not do that. That means that I believe that Muslims are bad people. Of course, they are not. There are very many friendly Muslims. For 10 years, I traveled from Egypt to Iran, from Afghanistan to Lebanon, and I met so many friendly and respectable people. So it's not a fight against Muslims. It's a fight against the ideology that at the end of the day will call us our freedom. Numbers before I finish my speech. The reality is that there are not just a few extremists in our midst, unfortunately. Recent research in Amsterdam showed that 11% of the Muslims in the Netherlands say that they are prepared to use violence for the sake of Islam. Now one can say, well, it's only 11%, but it's more than 100,000 people who are living in the Netherlands and who are saying that today they are willing to use violence if it's good for Islam. I have no figures for that. I don't know if it's political to solve the problems. I have some about the demography in Denmark, and I think because of the time I better skip that. But let me tell you that demography is important with immigration as well. And we all know that currently 1 million immigrants, mostly from Islamic countries, are racing in Northern Africa to cross Europe. And if we do not stop that, it will be an enormous catastrophe. And that is why I urge you to adopt the Australian method. Australia is a well-respected country. Australia sends all the immigrants back without exceptions. And if they need to be provided by a safe boat, with air conditioning, with food, with water, they will be provided by a safe boat. Nobody should drown, but they will be back. And what is the message? What is the message that the human traffickers, who are millionaires today, what is the message to all those poor people who are drowning today in the Mediterranean? The message is today that if you take a chance, you will be picked up with one of the vessels and not taken back, but taken to Greece or taken to Italy or taken to any human traffickers. We'll get even more riches, and the poor people will even try more and pay more to reach Europe. So I believe that we should do what the Australians do. Send them all back in a safe way. You will make sure that the traffickers will get no more money, and you will also sure that the people will not drown. Do not think, because this is now happening in the European Union, act accordingly, if we take them all in and we divide them over the countries, that Denmark will escape from that catastrophe. You will not. Even if you have an opt-out from the immigration policy, you are a member of Schengen, and 90% that will be entered will go illegally to the north, where they have a better time. Worldwide, ladies and gentlemen, worldwide, the growth rate of Islam is more than double of the growth rate of Christianity. By 2070, Islam will be the #1 religion in the world. Do not think that this will not affect our future generation. And I believe that if Christianity or Buddhism, if they would be dominant, would become dominant in the world, there would be hardly a problem of freedom of speech. But I believe you, I promise you, that if we allow Islam to become the major force, the Western countries, that it's going to be hell for everyone. And I want you to know that it will happen. It will happen. Islam becomes more prominent. And to those who criticize me for my views about Islam, I tell them that if you allow the situation to deteriorate, if you allow to grant an ideology that is at war with us, to give them more and more civil rights, then you will end up in a world where churches will be closed, where Christian schools will be closed, where women and homosexuals will be treated badly. And if you don't believe me, what is happening here, look at every country in the Arab and Islamic world where the Islam is already dominant today. It is happening there. I'm not inventing it. It is happening there, and it will happen here. So, if we want to keep our freedoms, we will have to be brave. We will have to resist Islam. We have to defend liberty. We must draw the line. There is more than enough Islam in our countries already. We have to stop the mass immigration to our Western countries. And to those people that are already in our countries, of course, if they abide by our laws, our constitution and our values, they are not only free to stay, but equal as anybody else. But if they don't, if they start acting according to Sharia, if they commit violent crimes, I believe we should expel them. We have no obligation, nothing to Islam. And we must realize that with every more mosque, halal shop, Islamic school, every burqa is being seen by Islam as an ultimate step, a next step to the goal of our submission. I believe we are at crossroads today, and we must choose. We must be brave. Freedom of speech, yes, it's under attack. But if we do nothing, and the choice is not between freedom of speech or censorship, the choice is between appeasement and resistance. We cannot have it, you cannot have it both ways. There is no middle way. Unfortunately, more and more people all over the world are becoming aware of what is at stake. They all love their children. They all love their countries. They all want their countries and their children to remain free. But we have to do our duty. And we have to be brave. And if that means we have to have war, we should win it. Thank you very much.
Pass the mic to you in a minute, because that is very difficult to pronounce your name. Just allow me to ask you one question. You're going on trial for some comment on Morocco. It was 7 days, tell it. Is it true?
No, of course not. I have not called them scums, and I ask any journalist to show the proof to all of you. I did not. Now, what I asked to my fellow more or less European Union if they wanted more or less socialists, another group that I like a lot, and if they wanted more or less Moroccans. And I said Moroccans to almost any television crew that was present and wanted a reaction, because Moroccans today are the group that is at some crimes even 22 times overrepresented in criminal statistics. Moroccans are the group that almost 75% of all the Dutch jihadis will go and fight and behead people in the Middle East. And yet, a lot of jihadis, unfortunately, are descent. Suggested. I never said that all Moroccans should leave. I said that through three ways we should have less Moroccans. First, to stop the immigration from any Islamic country. As you know, Morocco is also an Islamic country. Second, by proposing, and we already have a law in Holland, it's not my law, it's the law from the current government that I'm opposing, to propose that the remigration voluntarily will be effective. And thirdly, what I also said in my speech, that if criminals, if people commit a serious criminal act and they have a double nationality, for instance terrorists, I believe that they should be stripped of the Dutch nationality and sent away to the country where they have the other. This is what I proposed, and maybe as a last remark, a leftist newspaper in Holland called the Volkskrant wanted to show that I was wrong or I had no support, and they made a poll over all the Dutchmen from left to right, and it proved that when I thought
Okay. Yes, a few points. You defended your point that we need to discriminate against Islam, referring, among other things, to the fact that it is a way to say no to slavery. But may I remind you that the realization of the communist ideology was the equivalent of slavery. And according to Marxism-Leninism, it would be okay to kill capitalists in a democracy. And nevertheless, we didn't ban communism. We didn't close communist schools. So again, I don't see why we should make treat Islam any differently. But I would also like to, my key point is that democracy is about process and rules, and you cannot make exceptions to the rules in a democracy without undermining it. You cannot build a free society on free methods. You cannot defend democracy with undemocratic methods. That's my point. I fear that if you start to go down, this kind of emergency rules, then you will destroy democracy and freedom, the things that you are saying that you defend.
May I react? Well, thank you. Good points, but untrue. First, indeed, you are right that we did not outlaw in the past communist school or whatsoever. But I mean, the time was not frozen from the past. I believe that nobody in this room would today be in favor that if it would happen now. Most probably, a lot of Danish people, certainly many Dutch people, will say, no, I don't want more fish at school. Look what happened in the past. We have learned our lessons. We don't want that. All that anti-Semitism, that violence, we don't want that. So I believe that because of what happened in the past, we should learn a lesson. And I'm so angry that we did not learn this lesson, that we again are ruled by governments that are appeasers. They are appeasing Islam. They are learning nothing. So that's your first question, or your first remark. Your second remark, well, your point is that I would be undermining a free society if we make exceptions. First, by not making exceptions, we are undermining our free societies. And there is one ideology that makes an exception, a very big exception, the exception to everybody that is non-Muslim, and that is Islam. Islam is the exception. I mean, but Quran verse 47, Surah 47 verse 4 says about the unbelievers. Whenever you meet the unbelievers, smite at their necks until you cause a bloodbath among them. We see it happening every day with Christians on the shores of Libya, in Syria, in Iraq. And another surah, Surah 4 verse 89 says almost the same about the apostates, people who want to leave Islam. And this is the core business of totalitarianism. If you are not allowed to leave, it's totalitarian. You are allowed to leave a political party. You are allowed to leave Christianity. You are allowed to leave Judaism. But if you leave Islam, you will be killed. Yes, we should not be granting them the civil rights. I am proud to say that I will not accept that. And I will be fighting for the Christians, and I will be fighting for the apostates. And the Quran, that unfortunately is very alive today, we can see it on TV every evening again, should be stopped.
That Islam has a problem with two key concepts. One is apostasy. I believe that too many Muslims think it is okay to kill people if they leave their religion, if they leave Islam, and that's the religious multicultural society to exercise without. And the other thing is blasphemy. And you have, and I have experienced using of the concept of blasphemy including Islam. And I think it's challenge to Muslims in Europe to work out a concept of blasphemy that is compatible with democracy. It's okay to be offended. Some countries still do have blasphemy laws. Should deal with somebody blaspheming your religion without thinking that it's okay to kill them. So I agree with you that these two problems are very important and fundamental to be able to live in peace in a multi-religious society. You said that you have to learn from history. You have to learn how this problem has. And the key lesson of bad ideas, undemocratic and so on and so forth, is that you cannot take that when you ban a bad idea, you're driving it on about and it gets worse. So the way forward is you believe somehow that you can build. So it's not just a question of principle that I believe that you cannot discriminate against a specific group. Democracy. It's also a question of practicality. Look at the Soviet Union. They put all dissidents in prison and camps and banned literature, any criticism. And even though there were only a few hundred, a few thousand dissidents, in the end, they undermined, this superpower because you couldn't eradicate these ideas. And if people believe in something, let's take something like Holocaust denial in Europe. I think in the Netherlands it's still a criminal offense to ban the Holocaust, or at least it is in many countries. And now the biggest group in Europe that is Holocaust deniers are Muslims. But do you think that we fight their belief in Holocaust denial by banning Holocaust denial? Of course not. We have to confront them in a free and open debate through education and so on and so forth, not by banning it.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I don't. that was well deserved. But I don't live in the real world. Look how we are here today. Look at, I'm not ashamed, but it's on the way here with all those police and the people who have to stop at the road. And I mean, it's terrible. It's not terrible for me. It's terrible for my Danish friends, what they all have to endure because Mr. Wilders is coming to Bornholm. It's terrible. I mean, I've been hidden somewhere on the island on a house where even a few ships from the Danish Navy are. I mean, it's like a war zone. Nobody wants that. That is the reality of today. Would criticize the Bible if I would have something about said something about Judaism, if we would have made some cartoons about Jesus, it all would not have today, my dear friend, is that those with violence are combined with threats, are combined with terrorist attack. I see my dear friend Lars Hedegaard sitting in the crowd. May I have an applause please for Lars Hedegaard? It's reality. It's not just an idea. He was almost shot at his home for his ideas. And I experienced the same in Garland. And your experience, you are, and I really mean it, a very brave man, what you did with the cartoons. But it's not an idea. Of course, I would not want to outlaw it. It's a book that is very alive today, and people act upon it in a criminal way. And that we should stop, and I'm not excusing myself for that.
We've only got 5 minutes left, so time has come for closing the But allow me, should we just give up enemy?
More liberty, but the same kind of liberty that they will, as long as they are behaving within the law. I mean, I'm not an appeaser in any way. I'm prepared to stand up for fundamental civil rights, and among them the rights of freedom of expression and freedom of religion. But I just don't think that it is compatible with freedom and democracy that if you deny a group of people the right to exercise their freedom. And I think that if you believe that this is not but about people committing actual violence and issuing threats and so on and so forth. But then I think you should call for criminalizing incitement to violence, not banning ideas. Criminalize it. You shoot yourself in the foot if you want to ban even bad ideas, bad books. It will come back to haunt you at some point, because in the end you will destroy the very foundation upon which the liberty and democracy that you and I enjoy is built.
Well, I better shoot myself in the foot with somebody else in the head. No, but listen, it's both. We should, of course, criminalize the act, but also what is the source of the act. And that is the Quran. The Quran is unfortunately very alive today. Muslims believe that it's the word of Allah, given through Gabriel, through Muhammad, but it's the word of Allah. And still today, I mean, remember what those the journalists of Charlie Hebdo in January, what they shouted. They shouted that they revenged Muhammad. That's what they do. That's what their business is. So I believe that we should not grant freedom to those who want to rob us of our freedom. It's very intellectual. It might sound very democratic, but at the end of the day, we are giving the ones that want to destroy us, we are giving them the means to do that. And they declare war on us. We did not declare war on them. They declare war on us. So we should fight them back with all means. Of course, within a democratic society. I am a democratic elected politician. Almost 1 million people in Holland voted for me, and I fight on it only through democratical means. That we should not be afraid. And if you do, indeed, you are being seen as a kind of a lunatic. You will get people and parties or Muslim organizations that take you to court. You will get ISIS and the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda and the Pakistani band that want to kill you. So I know it's not attractive to do so, but we should. We should, because we have to make sure that our children, our grandchildren, where gays, where apostates, where Christians, have the rights that they deserve. They do have it now, but they will not have it if we give in and if we keep appeasing. And I never said that you are an appeaser, because I know you are not, but we are ruled, many of our countries, by the appeasers, and we should stand up and fight that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I think that the key difference between a democracy and a dictatorship is that in a dictatorship you tend to criminalize words as if they are deeds. Many acts of tax evasion, fast driving, shoplifting, and so on and so forth. But the key difference is that a democracy tends not to criminalize words as if they were deeds. And I think you are calling for some of the methods that are being applied in a dictatorship when you want to treat words as if they are deeds, as if they were deeds. This is exactly what is happening in the countries that you are criticizing. This is what happened in the Soviet Union. And this is what is the distinction between a democracy and a dictatorship. We tend not to criminalize words as if they were deeds.
Well, you know, that might then be a difference. My point was, and I will repeat it, that it's not only words. The deeds come because of the words. They are shouting it today when they behead somebody. They are reciting the Quran. They are doing exactly what the Quran commands them to do. That's why you cannot separate the deeds from the words. I wish that was true. But once again, if we would take your way, and you would be wrong, there would be no Denmark in 20, 30, 40 years. It would change entirely. And I would say, without once again making the good Muslims, and there are many of them, making them suffer. Neither of us, nobody here wants that, but to make a strong point that we will not appease any violence from the Islam. And unfortunately, the Islam and freedom are incompatible. We have to realize that. I'm not talking about Muslims. Muslims can be moderate, but moderate Islam does not exist. Thank you so much.